Welcome to another podcast of the current situation at Manchester United. I'll be going to a few Manchester United latest news before I get into the main topic of this video podcast. Honestly, I wanted to do a video on Tuesday. I was doing the video on Tuesday, but I didn't have the urge or motivation to like follow through on that video, is because again, like I just said, I did the video, but I didn't really finish the video because given what was happening in America and given what's happening in football in general, which I'm going to discuss, I was very distracted, is me. So while I was doing the video podcast, I was like, what's next? What's the verdict? What's the sentence? Like I was caught enough in two minds basically. Is me. So at one end I wanted to do the video for you guys, and then on the other end I was distracted. um I was in a different lane on a one-way street. But this video podcast is going to, okay, let me just get into a few housekeeping notes in relation to Manchester. No, first of all, Edward Ward has left his role as CEO of Manchester United. Yes, I'm behind the eighth ball. Yes, I'm using Internet Explorer. So yes, I'm kind of late. I've been living under a rock, is me. But yes, it came to pass. It took a while, but it has happened. Ed Woodward is excused. He has resigned from being in line of the CEO of Manchester United. So again, he's removed from that role. Um, but this is what Ed Woodward has to say. My English is so bad. Um, he said he left Manchester United because he couldn't back owners based on the Super League plans. Brethren, you left because you had to. But just to give you the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to go into the news where it talks about your latest comments. So he basically he's basically Ed Woodward is basically saying he left Man United because he didn't get enough backing from the owners, which I'm going to be discussing in this video, not only with Manchester United but in relation to different clubs and their owners. So he basically said that he couldn't get backed by the owners' Super League plans. Now, I think the Super League is officially off, at least for the moment, because Papa Perez, or I would call Paper Perez, because he's all about that paper, he's all about those M's. That's Real Madrid's president, and I think he's the owner of Real Madrid. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on it. He's basically saying that the Super League is still out there. Like there is a possibility that the Super League can actually kick off. But back to Ed Woodward, because he's the man of the moment right now. He's basically saying he's stepping away from Manchester because he could not back the Super League plans. The Super League is out in the open for a myriad of reasons. One perspective is based on money. There are clubs that have suffered financially in regarding to transfers, in regarding to sponsors, in regarding to money in general. Like for example, Real Madrid, I think they're in like a 1 billion debt or something like that. Barcelona has suffered tremendously. You have Messi, who is on like my man has been getting like 5 million for the past 5 seasons or something like that, to that effect. And Papa Perez, Fiorentino Perez is the real name. He saw this as an opportunity to build a Super League with at least 12 clubs so they could come together and play together each week, and by the amount of views, the amount of not United fans. Well, United would be a part of it, but the amount of fans that is watching the games are being tuned with the games. That money is going back to clubs that they are supportive of. The fans are supporting. Like for example, if United, because United was supposed to participate in the Super League, but they withdrawn from that. They didn't want to be in the kitchen, so they removed from the heat. And this is the thing. If the fans were watching United in the Super League, the money, the monetization would actually go to Manchester United. It would go to Manchester United. So mostly, if Real Madrid fans, because they need the money, because they're in debt, the fans, if they're watching the game, the money that they put into the club will go to the club through views and watches on television through streams and etc. Is me. And Perez is basically saying the reason I'm going back to Edward Word in a second, but Perez is basically saying the reason why Super League is in the open right now is because football is dying. I think again I'm perfect, but he's basically saying that he wants to like revive football because given how clubs are dying financially, given COVID, the advent of the emergence of the COVID-19, where fans cannot really go to the stadium to watch football on first light footage, they have to stay in the comfort of their homes to watch the game, whether it's on a live stream, whether it's on TV, or somewhere else. You see me? So that's what Perez is basically saying. But personally seeing this as a deceit and a defeat in the perspective of the fans, because persons believe that Perez is doing this for his own benefit, for clubs to be rich again, and etc. One thing some fans argue is that because clubs are overwaging players' wages per week, like there are clubs that are like lacing players' wages per week. I mean, to players that haven't even expressed or show a bluster of their talent. Like their youngsters that hasn't really improved, not improved, but shown themselves approval as to why they should get this hefty contract. Is me. But Edward is basically saying he didn't get backing from the Super League plans, so he had to move away from the Super League. Now the top six side excused themselves from the Super League because they didn't want to be in the kitchen. You see, they couldn't handle the heat. Plus it would hold on. It would in one other way destroy the competitive nature of the Premier League. It would be very detrimental and depriving on the Premier League because the players are human beings. They are not robots that are given different batteries in the game. They are human beings that are mortal beings that have to rest so that they can play at their best. So with the emergence of the Super League, with the Premier League, with the Capital One Cup, or some would call it Spanish Cup, not the Spanish Cup, the Sponge League Cup, the FA Cup, the Champions League, that is too much football to call on. Human beings need to rest, but it goes beyond rest. It's just going to mess up the competitive nature of the Premier League and other leagues. So, without getting into here, Ed Woodward is basically saying that he excused himself because, based on the Super League plans, he didn't feel like he was going to get backed. So he said. Another thing I want to get into, yes, Edison Cavani. It seems as though Edison Cavani wants to leave Manchester United because of the Manchester weather. Dude, this is my thing. I've already known this before, so this is like common knowledge. This has been under the sun since Di Maria has been at Manchester United, starting with 2014. South American players are not really, they're not going to thrive at their best in cold weather. We have seen that with Varane. Well, I was watching Varane at the time. I was sucking titties at the time. I was sucking breast milk. Di Maria, when he came to United in 2014, not only was he bitching about the weather, but he got robbed as well. So his wife was saying, "Hey babe, let's get the hell out of here." And now Cavani is having problems with the weather, and whether or not that is true, again, Cavani is coming to the back end of his career, so he's not like a newborn talent that is coming to the emergent. No, he's past that stage long ago. He wants to like settle down now. He wants to go back to probably his boyhood club. He wants to go to the South American environment where it's warm. It's not really nippy. The weather is nice. The sun is shining, and etc. So he wants to go back to that environment. It seems. If hold on, if Edison Cavani is to leave Manchester United, then we for sure we need strikers because We cannot rely on the services in terms of goals only on Anthony Martial, because Martial has not been very good this season. Rashford is a winger. He came out of the academy as a striker, but his striker's instinct has been leashed out ever since Jose Mourinho has played him mostly on the wing. So that is where he mostly sings right now. That's where he makes most of his name right now. That's his claim to fame, on the wing, not as a striker. Mason Greenwood, some person are saying that next season Mason Greenwood, hold on, should be, why is this not loading? Should be playing as a striker for number nine right now, because he's getting built. He's building his talents as well. He's coming of age. He has the second most goals under the age of 20 at Manchester United since Wayne Rooney. People are saying he's not really effective on the right wing because he's made some goals. I'm not going to really get into that because again I want to get into something else in relation to this video podcast. But Mason Greenwood, we should still get a striker for next season if Edison Cavani leaves. If Edison Cavani leaves, United needs a striker and another right winger next season. We we need a dude. We are not in a very good position right now. I was watching a couple live streams some minutes ago with on Rants and Buns, and United son of we talking about United falling apart, and we're not in a good place right now as a club. We're not in a good place in relation to other clubs, but this is a Manchester United fan, so I'm gearing this to just Manchester United. So Manchester is not really united in relation to sponsors, to the club owners, and we have a lot of housekeeping notes that we need to sort out. We need improvements in the upper room, that is where the CEOs are, and the lower room where players are. There are certain players that need to believe in Manchester United. There are certain players that we need to sign at Manchester United. And it says here that Man United in chaos with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer disturbed by Carrington training hijack. It's been said that some fans, because they are not real happy, which I'm going to get into in a second, there are some fans, United fans, that came to Carrington to express their true, straightforward thoughts on the Glazers and how the club is being run at the moment. They're having like I don't know how they got into Carrington, but it's been said that they went there, and it says here that a group of fans were seen blocking the main entrance to Carrington with their clean intent being shown their anger and frustration towards the Glazers. This is the reality of it, and this is where I'm going to get into the meat or the matter of this particular video podcast. Of course, leave your video podcast. Leave your comments down below in the comment section. Like and subscribe to the channel. This is geared towards Manchester, not only Manchester United, but football in general. This is what we need to understand, and this has been going on even outside of the realms of football. You ever wonder why black persons always had a resentment towards white persons? And this doesn't only go towards just slavery days. Even to this day, we have seen it even on Tuesday regarding George Floyd's case. You ever wonder why some black persons resent white people or non-black people to a degree? You ever wonder why persons got more privileges than other persons, at least to a degree? Do you understand why there's certain factions of society that functions more than other minor groups in relation? Like for example, major groups and minor groups in society. If I was to give an example of a major group, okay, I was using ethnicity and races. White persons are seen as a major group because white people is basically power, basically. And power is the basis of this video podcast, whether it's in relation to football and society. The reason why a lot of fans are protesting against their club owners is because there is a power slash, or I should say this now. Fans are not really happy with how clubs are being run because the club owners are getting paper based on, basically they're getting more benefits than the fans themselves because the fans are pumping money into the club. And based on whether it's on the football on the pitch or transfers that are being made, they are not, hold on, they don't think that they are getting their benefits as well. They think that the club owners and the persons in power are getting more of the benefit. We have seen it with Fiorentino Perez, person saying he's selfish. That's why he has the Super League out here, because he thinks it's going to not only benefit Real Madrid, but it's going to benefit not players really, but the persons in power, persons that are on the low end of finances, whether it's at Barcelona or Manchester United and other clubs that are suffering financially, at least to a degree. So you see this as a cop out to actually get money. This is a concept you guys need to understand. If you guys have done sociology like yours truly, you know of this concept known as the conflict theory. The conflict theory. Hold on. What is the conflict theory? See me going into class right now. Conflict theory is basically what I've been talking about up until this point. It's basically this. It's a state of perpetual conflict because of competition. Competition. Keyword on that. Football competition. Well, they didn't say football competition, but we're relating this to football competition in regards to the Super League. But it says here, in relation to the definition of conflict theory, is a state of perpetual conflict because of competition for limited resources. Keep that in mind, limited resources. When you think of limited resources in relation to what I've been talking and discussing about in relation to the funds and the club owners, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind? In Arsenal fans want Kroenke out. At Manchester United, we have seen it with the Glazers. We want the Glazers out. Barcelona wanted Bermateo out. He's out at this moment in time. They have a new president. Fiorentino Perez is basically living on an island of himself, drinking coconut water and getting fanned on by some hot, beautiful women, because he's not. I don't think nobody's going to really challenge him as president. So he's in a complacent mode right now. So nobody's not going to challenge him. But this is in regards to wealth and power. And this is what some of you guys need to understand in relation to fans and the owners of clubs in general. There's always, it says here that conflict theory holds that social order is maintained by domination and power, rather than by consensus and conformity. Meaning that if we are fans, we all are football fans, right? We are football fans in general. If we understand that there is because there are some fans that are naive to football owners. They think that most football owners do things out of the goodness of their heart for the best of the fans themselves. And that's a naive, gullible, oblivious notion. This is the commotion you need to entertain. This is the reality truth. Most club owners just do their primary thing is to benefit them. That is not only in football, but in most of all persons in power. Whether it's a boss, whoever is in the dominant role of society, they do things primarily for the first reason, for themselves. So they are the first beneficiary of everything in regards to resources, wealth, power, and influence. Secondly, this is where the fans can secondly is the football players, because they need to pay the wages of the football players. So secondly, the players would come into question. Now after that, the fans would come into play, because without the fans, you're not going to get any support, and without the support, the club is going to diminish. And without the club, there's no football. So wealth and power, with wealth and power, this is what it says. With wealth and power, according to the conflict theory, with those of wealth and power try to hold on to it by any means possible, chiefly by suppressing the poor and powerless. With me saying that, you know that there are some funds, most funds are powerless. Most funds have no influence. Most funds, I wouldn't say are poor because they go to the Manchester United match or other club matches because they support that club. But in regards to like the hierarchy, where we have the CEOs, the players, and the fans down here, so fans are getting hip to the game now. They're not as naive as they once were. Fans are now seeing that club owners are doing things for the betterment of themselves. And we have and Fiorentino Perez has strengthened a claim and has proved my point. Kroenke in Arsenal's camp, Arsenal fans don't think that Kroenke cares for Arsenal fans as Arsenal fans do Arsenal. They don't think he cares about them like that. But the Glazers, the same thing with the Glazers. We want the Glazers to be removed because we don't think they're doing things in the best interest of either the fans or the football club. So the conflict theory is out in the open. Even Stevie Wonder can see it. Fans are not really happy with how the club is really bamboozling them. They don't like how the club is manipulating them or are taking them for pocket money, which is going to be a beneficiary for them primarily. Again, the most club owners they're going to do things primarily for themselves. They're the first beneficiary. The club owners are going to benefit the players in terms of who matters to them. Firstly is themselves. Secondly is the players because they have to pay the players wages. Thirdly is the fans, us. And you have to understand that in a society where janitors, let's use janitors for example, where janitors are looking at male bosses or persons in power, they're not going to really be happy with their hierarchy, their place in the hierarchy. Whether it's the boss not giving them enough money, whether they don't think the boss is treating them fairly, they're not going to be happy with how things are. That's the same thing with football fans at the moment. Football is in mayhem right now, whether it's universally and generally. Football is at the person saying that football is not going to be the same, whether it's because of COVID-19 or etc. The reality is that given limited resource in relation to the conflict theory, there are clubs that are bank quote unquote broke or bankrupt in regards to limited resources. And those limited resources is coming from the fans. The fans pump money into the club based on sponsorship, deals, and etc. This is why Fiorentino Perez wants Super League to be in existence. Whether it's for the beneficiary of football or for the club owner so they can get more money because clubs are suffering financially. It's not going to get any better from here. It's going to be an uphill battle for fans in regarding to fans protesting against club owners and their football clubs. When fans are finding out that club owners are doing things for the betterment of themselves, or the money is going to go towards the club, but it's not going to be used for making decent transfers, fans are going to be pissed off and they're not going to be happy with how things are. And this is in regarding to wealth and power, basically. So what we have to understand is that all of us have our places in society. Is me. There are some fans like Troops of Arsenal and DT, all the way block me on Twitter. You know, screw you anyway, but I'm gonna call you out anyway. Robbie of Arsenal. Those fans are not really the primary. They're not the main source. They're not. They don't represent most fans because most fans like Robbie, DT, and Troops, they're not going to be fans that have access to the players and other factions of the club. Troops, DT, and Robbie, they are in the club. They can get access in the club because, you know, I won't say the club is not big enough, but there are fans that have access towards, they have a certain degree of influence and power in regards to Arsenal. Is me. Us with us Man United fans, some United fans don't have that easily access to certain factions of football players, whether it's probably after the match if they can, if they're doing like channel match reactions like the United Sun, the full time Devils, whether it's whoever, they can get access to the players and hey ask like what, how was the match and etc. That's the only access they can get to the football. But with Arsenal, certain factions of fans can get access to fans to footballers, and even in some occasions they can get access to the owners of the club. You see me? And the reality is that when fans are start calling out and protesting with a picket sign in their hand saying Cronky out or Glazers out, it's going to create tension between the club owners and the club and the fans themselves. Fans don't like, and this is not only with fans in football, but persons don't like when persons are above them in status, in power and influence, are manipulating them, whether it's for money or what are inequality. Is me. What we have to understand is that there is a hierarchy out here, whether it's in football or whether it's in society. There is a saying that goes, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That is not an arbitrary or random statement. There's a reason that has been stated many times. You ever heard of this saying? What's the saying again? Crap, I'm missing the statement right now. Yes, the more money that you have, the more access you can get to money, and the less money that you have, that is not an arbitrary statement. There's a reason for that. The rich get richer based on access that is coming their way. When they have access to money, they have more opportunities. If you're an average, well, not the real average, if you're a dude that is broke and people see you as a big time joke, you're not going to get any revenue of money. You're not going to get any monetization. You're not going to get the same respect in the aspect of the social hierarchy or the football hierarchy for that matter. Because the reality is that, and I've mentioned it before, fans are not on the same wavelength as footballers in relation to power, influence, and wealth. Football fans are not on the same wavelength or same battlefield with club owners as well, but they have a say so, meaning that if the fans believe that the club is not really run into, let me say this properly, if the fans believe that the club is not going into the right direction, they're going to protest. They're going to protest. And at some point, if they continue to protest, there's going to be a reaction, whether it's positive or negative. There's going to be a reaction. We have seen that how Arsenal fans have pushed out Arsene Wenger in 2018. Persons saying that Wenger was removed from being, no, he was sacked. Whether it's based on results, which was the primary reason, but secondly, fans were not buying into what Wenger is doing, and they thought he was past, which he was. So he was removed. So fans do have an influence, a degree of influence. But when it comes on to fans between club owners as much as you fans want to protest, I don't know if it gives you a mental orgasm or it just gives you an ego booster or say it satiates your ego or it takes off weight off your shoulders after you have expressed your true thoughts and how the club is running at the moment. For certain clubs, that is not going to bother them in the slightest. I've seen on Twitter where um they have hashtag like Glazers out, Cranky out. This is me. And people think that's going to have an indictment on the club owners. Person have said Edward Ward out. He's out right now. But he claims it's based on the basis of the club not having plans for the Super League or whatever. This is me. The only way, and this have been expressed before, the only way you can hurt the club owners is stop going to games. You have seen that before with Arsenal fans. Stop going to games because when you go to games, you have to pay for your ticket. Stop paying for tickets, season full tickets. Stop paying for things that is club worthy, like for example, the jersey, the kit, some things that are in relation to the club. That is one way. Stop going to games, stop purchasing their products. Protests can help to a degree, but basically club owners, their beneficiaries based on money. So when you deprive them of money, they're going to have a reaction eventually, because no club owner is going to run a club if there is no money coming into the club. That is money suicide. That is like business suicide, if you ask me. And I don't know, I cannot paint based on business, and I even know that. So in wrapping up, bro, what you have to understand is that the conflict theory in relation to football, in correlation to fans, football players, and club owners, there's a hierarchy out here, there's a pyramid out here. So the club owners are on top of the pyramid. Secondly, is the players. Thirdly, and lastly, is the footballers. Not the footballers, but the football funds. The football funds are always going to be at the low end of the football funds are always going to be the last in the picking order, to say, because again, like I say, the club owners is doing things for the betterment for themselves because they need to get paid. Secondly, is to pay the players that play for the club. And thirdly, is so that players, not players, I'm getting mixed up. It's so that they can at least think they can keep the fans on their side. But we're seeing now with the exposure of the Super League, fans are not really on their side, in particular with Manchester United and Arsenal. And Arsenal has not been the same since 2004. And Man United has not been the same since 2013. So the fans are believing that clubs are not really properly run in a football way. It's for money, it's for the betterment of themselves, which is true because, like I just mentioned, business owners or club owners are going to do what is best for them. That is the first thing they're going to look out after. Secondly, is for the players or their employees, whether it's in a working environment or whatever. And thirdly, in regards to football, is the fans. So the fans is always behind the eighth wall and last in the pecking order in relation to whose interest it is. Persons might see this as a bad thing, but this is just reality in general. There is always going to be conflict between persons in power and persons that are powerless or have a less degree of influence. There's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be negative tension. There's always going to be smoke and heat between those two factions. It's rare if you see persons that are in power that are friends with persons that are not in power. You might think that you are a janitor and I'm a boss, and you think that you being a janitor, be nice to me. I I know that you are not happy with the job that you have right now because you settle for that job to make ends meet, or because I know you're not happy with the place that you're in, but you settle it and you're content with it so you can make ends meet. But I know that you're not happy with the degree of influence that yours truly have. As an example, there's always going to be tension between football fans, I should say, because footballers, they're not really speaking out on the matter. They're keeping things under the wraps because they don't want to probably ruin their reputation and their public image, which is understandable. But fans in general and football owners, they're going to always have a degree of tension. As Karl Marx, who is the theorist that came up with the conflict theory, he basically suggests that based on power and influence, based on limited resources, persons that are below in power is always going to resent those in power. And we have seen that with football fans in the current climate of football. So there you have it. I think I'm going to do a preview tomorrow based on the next game for Manchester United. So stick out for that one. Like and subscribe to the channel. I'll read you guys' comments in the comment section. Express your opinions, bro. Maybe I'm just talking from the right side of my behind right now. Maybe I don't know anything I'm talking about. Maybe you can give me some enlightenment, some indictment. Comments down below. Like and subscribe to the channel. Your boy is out, and I'll show you in the next video podcast. Peace.